Let's discuss this and more with Republican Congressman Don Bacon of Nebraska. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. As you know, Democrats are making clear that Republicans need to accept at least a few non-negotiable demands on reining in ICE agents, including requirements to obtain warrants to make arrests in homes. You've said you support these, but many in your Republican Party have balked at even these suggestions. Are you satisfied with how the White House is handling these negotiations, these talks right now?
It's my opinion that we should be able to find some low-hanging fruit that both sides can agree to. And we have 670,000 people being furloughed. It's not fair to TSA, FEMA, Coast Guard, all these folks who are serving our country to be furloughed, and our country needs them. And so my view of it, we play hardball because the Democrats have initiated this. By the way, ICE and Border Patrol are pretty well funded through the end of the year, and that's what they're mad at. So these innocent people are being caught up in it. Or maybe we should do the higher thing, reach across the table, find a few areas that we can agree on, like, for example, body cameras, I think is pretty easy. And so I would recommend, let's find some areas that both sides could agree to that's not a reach for the Republicans.
Good point. In last year's government shutdown, Congressman, Democrats used that to drive home the issue of health care affordability. The longer this current partial shutdown goes on, though, do you see it hurting or helping Republicans, especially coming up to the November midterm elections?
Well, I see it mainly as going to cost Democrats because the last two shutdowns were really initiated by Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. And like I said, they're doing this because they're angry at ICE and Border Patrol. But both of those agencies are very well funded through the end of the year. It's the other parts of Homeland Security that are not. And it's these agencies are the agencies we need. And I think all of us, we fly quite a bit. TSA is very important. And those poor folks are working without pay right now, and it's not right.
A source tells CNN that the president's political team, including Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, met with GOP strategists and cabinet members up on Capitol Hill last night to discuss the midterm election strategy. Trump's team is encouraging some of his cabinet secretaries to visit competitive midterm districts and highlight their work on economic issues. How effective do you think that would be?
Well, if they stay on message, it's a good thing. I think what's cost the president, instead of focusing on affordability, the fact right now wages are climbing faster than inflation, the first time in 5 years. We should be talking about that, and gas prices. But they get sidetracked on issues that I think are harmful, like Greenland, Ukraine is very popular with 3/4 of Americans wanting to do more to help Ukraine. But the president here has done very little and often sides with Russia over Ukraine. I find that these issues hurt the president and his favorable ratings and will hurt Republicans down ballot. I find tariffs are not popular, at least in our district. 2 out of 3 of folks in my district don't like tariffs. So the president has some good things to run on. Wages are climbing, gas prices are down, he secured the border. But we don't hear enough about those things. We hear about things that are very unpopular right now. They got to stay focused.
And one of those things that you don't like necessarily are the tariffs. This week, you became the first Republican to co-sponsor a new constitutional amendment that would give Congress the power to overturn presidential pardons. Why do you think this is necessary?
Yeah, what this does is if 2/3 of both the House and Senate disagree with the pardon, it can be overturned. I think pardons have been abused. The most egregious case from the current administration was when the previous president of Honduras was found guilty in a U.S. court, U.S. jury, of trafficking 400 tons of cocaine, 800,000 pounds of cocaine, and he got pardoned. There's no excuse for that. But I would also like to say, Wolf, that the previous president also has some very egregious pardons. And I think it's gotten out of hand. I think the pardon gift that the Constitution has given the president, or that authority, has been abused. And I think this allows me a chance to criticize these actions that have been taken. I think it's an uphill climb to get it done, but we need to put a spotlight on it. The pardon authority has been abused.
Are there any other Republicans that you've spoken to who support this notion?
I don't know if they're willing to put their name on this bill right now, but I know many Republicans did not agree with the pardon of a guy who was found guilty of trafficking 400 tons of cocaine. And so there has been criticisms internally. And I think I think the president needs to know, he needs to get this kind of feedback, right? We are better when people give us feedback. If someone thinks they're immune to feedback from their own party, it makes them worse.
You think the president did the right thing pardoning all of those individuals who stormed the U.S. Capitol, on January 6th, as we all remember, and he pardoned all of them? Was that the right step?
I disagreed with it. There were many cops that were injured. 140 police officers were injured during 6 January. And those folks who injured the cops should not have been pardoned. Now, I do think you can make a case that some of the sentences were extreme. So maybe some of them could have had commutations or reduced sentences. But to pardon everybody, I think was a mistake. I mean, we had people vandalizing the Capitol, defecating on the halls of Congress, and we had 140 cops injured. The folks who did those actions should have been held accountable.
Yeah, they were pardoned by the president. All right, Congressman Don Bacon of Nebraska, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, and we'll be right back.